We're live. Look at this. We already got
Yes.
someone here, but not Ron. No Ron. Ron could not be bothered to be here on time.
We left him.
You know.
We lost him in a bet in Vegas.
Oh,
That's
you know what
happened.
happens? I paid
Yeah.
my bet this morning, by the way.
You what?
Right here.
I had to. Oh, there he
Oh,
comes.
Ron's
Comes
here. Let's add him back
crawling
in.
Back.
All right.
Crawling back.
I'm having problems. Dogs stealing my seat.
Nothing.
Headphones. Whoa, come here.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Well,
There he goes. He was here, and now he's not here. He's,
we'll leave him back
Anyways.
out. So what was your bet?
Remember, I bet $100 on the show of Derek versus the field.
Yeah.
And I told you I would be happy if I lost, and I lost, and that was great.
Yeah.
And then this morning, I was chatting back and forth. And of course, one sec, I gotta look up his name and make sure I don't fuck.
So you literally gave him the $100.
Of course I did.
That was good.
Actually, but in fairness, he was like, you don't have to pay it. I'm like, of course I do.
Yeah.
So we did a little PayPal exchange, and then I had to figure out where he was from because he's from Norway.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yes. And am I saying this right? Sivar? I don't know. Sivar. Anyway,
Okay.
Ron, is that right? So anyways, yes. Because when I paid, it was like a weird number, and it threw me off, like how I was paying. You know, when it does the conversion. So
What was the bet again? What was the bet again? I can't remember.
100 US Derek versus the field. Remember?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
I mean, technically, I probably should have paid him 200. He lost twice.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do the official. Are we ready for the official drop? We got enough people on. We got.
Oh yeah,
ready?
we're good to go. We did the
Everyone
first
but
5 minute
you,
crow.
buddy.
We did
You
the
guys are
first
30
5
minutes
minutes
in.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. I'm Big Ron Partlow, of course. Dusty Hanshaw, the producer, Scott McNally, the gentleman.
That's us.
And like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell.
yes, absolutely. Not in person this time. Hey, Tina, it was good to see you at the expo. Okay, remember IamMutant.com. Go to IamMutant. Beer Bellies and Bodybuilding. Go to IamMutant. Use your code Dusty or Big Ron. The new codes, no numbers on them, just Dusty or Big Ron. Get your ISO search, get your all in, and everybody should get on the gear. And by the looks of the crew we saw on the weekend, you're all on the gear.
All of it. Yeah. All of it. They're doing well.
Okay.
Yes.
Happy to be here. Back from the O. Hey,
Yeah,
how was it?
was a
So,
weekend.
Scott, what was your take on the Olympia? We're just going to jump into the show.
Yeah.
Like-
Are we going to
like-
jump into the
like-
show? Because I feel like we also should tell people, because obviously there were a ton of people there, but there were a ton of people that didn't make it. So
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to tell them too about like just the experience, you know what I mean? Because this is the first time. I mean, obviously the expo has been at the Las Vegas Convention Center before, but this was the first time at Resorts World for the show. I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about that, because personally, I thought that was fantastic. I like that better than playing at Hollywood. I like that better than things that they had done in the past. So I'm all for it. I thought the theater was great. I thought the sound was great when they got the music right, you know. And it was just a good overall production. So what did you guys think of that whole experience, getting to the logistics and all of that stuff?
I love Resorts World. That's where Emily and I stayed in January when we went to Vegas for our little holiday. And
You mean
so
for our
I-
wedding that we didn't invite you to?
Yeah. We went to, oh, my dog just won this toy. He just ripped it open. You win. That's going to be a mess. Yes, it was a great spot. I like the hotel. It's so nice. And I like the restaurant there. There's a good 24-hour restaurant with a nice fat menu. Dusty and I we took the ladies there for a meal at one point. You were with us. You came with us. And
Yeah, we did the late drive.
yeah, we did. Yeah. And so we like that hotel. The only thing that I missed compared to the year that we were at Planet Hollywood
Yeah.
was the giant, like at the night show, at the finals, when we went to the finals, they had the screens up, but they had bigger body length, like
Yeah.
portrait portrait vertical style screens the year before.
Oh,
So they were really good. You got a really good look at each guy.
that's cool.
So if they would have had just one more set of big screens, I would have liked that, because the screens they had where I was sitting, the one was kind of far away, and then the other one was kind of at an angle because I was sitting under
You're right.
a bit.
I felt that way too.
So the only thing I would change is I would have one more set of really good big screens where we could get a good look. But I mean, it was awesome. It was a great show.
Yeah. The seats are all close too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
remember the Orleans? You would be like, you would look, and you're kind of always either if you were down front or you were sitting on the side. But
Yeah.
there was no like sitting in the back seats.
The hockey arena.
Yeah.
Essentially a hockey arena. Yeah. So, you're like, the floor is lengthwise. So
Yeah,
you're like really far away if you're at the back, But this was great. It was like a theater made for that type of thing. So, it was good. Great spot.
I do feel like the sport has outgrown the theater venue, though. The reason the tickets were so hard to get and so expensive is there weren't that many. So
sold right out.
It's sold out quickly. Like you said, I prefer it for the viewing and the fact that I got a ticket, but I definitely know they could have probably sold another 2,000 seats if they had them. The only thing I don't like as much. So when we did the show in Florida last year, 2 years ago, whenever the hell it was, I like the one-stop shopping. Hotel is where the venue is for both the expo and the other. Ron and I dropped, a bag just driving around town, and then
Probably
because
spent
of
$300 on Ubers.
I'm not looking.
Oh yeah. Ubers, taxis, all of that. I'm sure I did too.
Yeah. And then do you guys remember when Vegas was a place you could go to because it was like, well, if you're gambling, then the food is cheap.
No.
That
you want
is
a water?
not the thing anymore.
You want a water? two Fiji waters, because of course they had Fiji and this is the venue, and a box of M&Ms were like, here you go, $44. What's my tip?
Yeah. And it starts at
20%. Right.
And 20% of that is $8. So
Yeah.
you're going to tip me 20%. It's $8 for handing you 2 bottles of water
that were
and a
warm.
box of M&Ms.
Yeah. It was like that everywhere though. Oh, you want a taco? Here you go, $19. Here you go.
Yeah, our hotel had waters, and we were getting them every night, of course, because I always have to have water before I go to sleep. And you don't drink tap water unless you're Ron an animal out of the freaking tap in Vegas.
Oh, we did
Canadian.
tap. We did tap.
Tough Canadian.
$7 a bottle.
Ooh.
So kind of went through those. Those were Aquafina. Everybody knows Aquafina is not in the top 10 anyways to begin with. So. Yeah, there we go. Exactly. $4.50 Canadian on Ubers. That's like $35 for you Americans watching.
Yeah.
There we go. Max out knows.
Yeah, that was painful. He's being literal, I guarantee it.
Good thing. Well, he's a gym owner, so he's rich.
Oh, of course.
Right. Gym owners just print money. Yeah. Great weekend. Vegas is not the $8 buffet it used to be. I caught the tail end of that. So the first time back in the Mandalay Bay when Ronnie was winning years, that was like the tail end of the kind of the you can eat for cheap in Vegas era.
Yeah.
And it was like $8 buffets at all the hotels if you go certain hours even. And, you just like pig out and get enough calories in to cruise through on 2 scoops away for your next meal. The old budget bodybuilder style. And then I remember the year. I remember like all of a sudden that was over. And it was like, oh, buffets are $29 for breakfast, which is
I think that
$40 Canadian. I'm like, oh, okay.
I think that they used to look at it like, hey, we don't want them to leave the casinos, so we'll make sure their beverages are free while at their table, food is cheap. But I actually think what they realized in hindsight was like, no, they're captive and they're starving. Let's just screw them. And
cabs got expensive
Got no
enough that
choice.
they're not leaving.
Yeah.
Right. So I know.
I did that math. But anyways, that was
It was good.
But the show was awesome. Samson was obviously ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
so let's address what I think are the kind of top few things that people are saying.
Okay.
The people who weren't there.
yes.
Right. Okay. So people who weren't there are saying stuff like Samson wasn't conditioned enough to win.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he was.
I didn't see that in person. Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he was. He was absolutely conditioned enough. And the word is conditioned enough to win.
Yeah,
He wasn't the hardest guy, but he was big and hard and crazy looking. And Hadi was, I'd say, the best conditioned guy in the top three. Hadi easily would be the best conditioned guy.
yep.
But man, we've been saying this for years. Someone asked me right before the show, do you think Samson will win the Olympia? And I said he absolutely will win the Olympia. I just don't know if it'll be this year. Right? That's why I picked Derek. I thought, oh, Derek might repeat, picking the winner is a safe bet, right? And I know, Missy, I would have loved to have seen you. We talked about you at the booth. We were chatting about you and your win, and it was great to see you come back from that ACL. Congratulations.
We're going to talk about that today too.
Yeah,
we have to.
True champion.
Yes,
true champion. So, I've always thought, I mean, Samson, it's obvious he has what it takes to win, but is it just going to be this year or next year, or when's his back going to be big enough? Like that sort of thing was always the talk. Well, it was this year. He was overwhelming in person.
Oh yeah.
Like last year, did you see the side-by-side shots from last year's Olympia that someone put up?
No.
Like Samson looked great last year. He got third.
Yeah.
He was drastically better. Like we forget what he looked like last year. He looked really good. And then they put the side-by-sides with this year, and you're like, oh my God, he was way harder in the legs. And the side of the leg and the back double, way better. Like he really improved. We just have, we're looking at the best guys in the world and they're already so good. It's like, it takes a while, you know what I mean? For us to realize what we're looking at. We got to look back at old photos to even remember. And he just really, really improved. Hadi was Hadi, which is incredible. And then Derek, I didn't think was as good as last year. I thought,
agreed.
My criticism with Derek, and of course, like this is a ridiculous physique, Mr. Olympia. My criticism with Derek is that I thought his quads were down and they weren't as hard. They were like a little smaller, and I don't know if they're smaller or flatter or whatever word. I'm not going to try to say I know what was going on.
Yeah.
They just weren't as visually crazy. And Derek's front relaxed isn't my favorite now. It's like his lats are so humongous that his arms sit on them really high and he kind of gets the flat delt thing. And then Samson is standing in like a more traditional front relaxed with the arms hanging.
Yeah.
And the delts are capped like the size of a pumpkin and the lats are sticking out. Yeah, and he's just got that really crazy front relax. Like the front stance on Samson is dominant, like I think out of this world dominant over everybody. It reminds me of Dorian's front relaxed standing there. It reminds me of Ronnie's front relaxed standing there, where you're just like, oh, that guy's gonna win. And that was kind of what I felt.
He had that like crazy hanging round muscle,
Yeah, the pecs are just yeah. So there was like an impression in person. And then the side chest, they all hit the side chest, and you're like, wow, Hadi looks good, Derek looks good, but Samson's just so much bigger.
Yeah.
Like, and then you're thinking, like, I'm at Mr. Olympia. This is, I like my Mr. Olympia's big. I don't know what to tell you. So that's my thing. That's my speech. That's my top three.
I felt like the biggest thing, the takeaway that I took, forget about, everyone saw what happened, and I think everything landed where it should have.
Yeah.
But when Hadi won the Olympia, I thought, I wonder who will win next year. When Derek won the Olympia, I said, I still thought he would win, but I wonder who will win next year. And when Samson won this year, I said, I wonder how many he will win.
Yeah, it's a problem now for it's.
I don't see
Samson
anybody. Any of the top, the only person I can see chasing him at this point, which sounds ridiculous, is Andrew, because he's the one that can. Not because he's shown it, but he's got the frame to hang.
Yeah.
Because when you put Hadi and Derek out there next to Samson, they looked small.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he did really
massive.
I will.
That was
I will,
what grabbed me immediately. You're like, oh, he's a monster, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
How do you beat that part, Ron? Because that was something that everyone was arguing that we were laughing about. Is it's not a conditioning game. So if you take away condition, which you could argue Hottie wins, he has the prettiest physique and the biggest physique. So what else do you need?
Yeah. It's enough. Like the condition, everyone's like, oh, he could be harder. Yeah, he can be harder, and he will get harder, which is going to make it even more impossible for any of those guys to beat him at this point right now.
You know, I did want to bring up too that we talked about briefly before I forget that I found disappointing. When we walked in to the show, Melvin Anthony was sitting there. So I made sure to say hello to him. For those of you who don't know who that is, look up Melvin Anthony posing routines Olympia.
Oh, yeah.
He used to put on such a show. And I felt like the Olympia Men's Open, no one cared to even think about doing a posing routine.
I don't think we saw a single posing routine.
No, you saw guys pose with music on. Then, and it was funny because Ron can attest this. I was showing Nikki Melvin Anthony videos during the show because I was so disappointed in comparison as a fan. And then Classic came out and everyone had a posing routine.
I was going to say that, man. I thought Classic was the most entertaining part of the night as far as entertainment, you know. And
I don't know where that got lost,
all that stuff. It was fun.
The way.
Not a single guy in the open had a proper routine. They had a couple guys had quasi routines where they have some links that they've done a million times, so they flow, and they came out and maybe hit like a 3-pose link to music. But then it just went to the whole like walk to the corner, most muscular, walk to the side, lat spread, point, side chest, flex. Like you could tell it was they're just hitting poses. And of course, the only person that we thought would actually have a routine at that point, like halfway through, was Andrew Jacked. And then he had that incident with his music where he just blew a kiss, did the splits, and left. So we didn't get to see anything that he was going to do.
What did you guys think of that? Handling that situation, you know,
I thought
as a top 5 Olympian, basically.
I thought it was a brutal mistake. And not that it cost him or anything. They were already done judging him. But, I mean, they're supposed to judge the night show. But I don't think they actually cared about the routines. But I thought it was a real bad decision for him to just leave the stage. I would have stayed out and posed for 3 entire minutes. Yeah. I would have hit every shot that I had. And yeah, I thought it was a real mistake. Who cares if they screw your music up, man?
The same thing happened to Breon, but Breon, he stopped, he paused, and he kind of like let everybody know because he was confused. And then he just said, screw it. And he went so hard with that routine. It was one of my favorite routines of the night, basically, like because he just got into it. You knew that it was kind of improv and he flowed so well with it. And I think that he won points with the audience because they knew that he was being a good sport about it.
And Samson did like kind of have a routine, but I'm not convinced it was a routine. I think he's just good at that. Like, you know, some guys can just walk out and like, you know, they hit a 3/4 back and go down on one knee and hit a bicep and maybe stand up and do a side chest. And it looks, but I don't know if it's actually routine. I don't know. I'm not convinced. Whereas the classic guys, those were choreographed.
Oh yeah.
Precision routines.
I think what happened is too many guys our age and younger that are in there watched Livroni back in the day and heard the fact that he would just pick his music the night before the show.
Yeah.
And he was such a good poser that just knowing the song, he could put it together and walk out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just disappointed because that's something that I really enjoy. And I was never great at it. I think that's why, is I appreciated the guys who put it together, you know, and really put on a show. So thank you to the classic guys, because it was wildly disappointing in that regard, just for the show part of it. You know what I mean? The classic guys came out, and of course, you know, not going to even get into the win yet, but Bumstead has a way with the 80s ballads and just making it so much better.
Oh yeah.
Here was so good. So before we move to classic, I want to give props to Dusty. His dark horse was Martin.
Oh yeah.
And Martin came in looking unbelievably good. And we got to give credit to Martin Fitzwater. Yep. I don't know how many people actually picked him for 4th. I know some people said he was their dark horse or top 5 material, but man, oh man, he beat Jacked for the first time after losing to him twice in Dallas. What a crazy showing. He just came in as dialed as he could have possibly been, and just did what he said he was going to do. And I got to give credit to a guy who does that. So congrats on that. I also thought that Hunter looked fantastic, but he just was like a percent of conditioning off, and it's why he fell a few spots, I think. If he would have just been a touch harder, what a problem he is. What a problem he is. I just we didn't quite get the Christmas that we need from him at that night. So that was my take.
Before we move on from anything with Martin, I wanted to be able to jump in and say I didn't see him as a dark horse because I just figured I expected it, and all of our listeners, they expected him to do really well. And we saw like, hey, he was really neck and neck with Nick Walker earlier in the year. And that's when I really realized when we were looking at the pictures on this show and we looked at the back shots, and I thought in my head, I'm like, well, Martin's coming up. He'll eventually get to Nick. And then when I looked at their backs, I was like, oh God, their backs they're different, but they're equally as good.
Martin looked awesome from the back, man.
And so at this show, I didn't see him as a dark horse because I expected him to do really well. That said, it was still like absolutely freaking shocking to see just how well he did.
Yeah.
Well, I think when you're looking at the top 5 that we had going into this show, that's why a lot of people were saying to me, well, he's not a dark horse. I'm like, I'm not saying we don't know he's phenomenal, but where are you going to go? I mean, because you didn't see him passing Nick.
Yeah. I didn't know. But
based on previous things, you didn't see him passing Andrew based on previous situations. He hasn't went head to head with Hunter, so that was a tough one. And I think realistically, once you saw him come out with a improved physique, the argument really didn't become about 4th and 5th. It became about 3rd and 4th. And I think more people would have had him in 3rd than would have had him in 5th. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, it was right there. And I think, again, we're based on one show and everybody makes changes. But based on what's happened in the last 12 months, Martin has more reason to think he's going up than some of these other guys that were already in the mix.
Yeah.
Like Martin's on the trajectory correctly. And I'm sure everyone, in Derek's camp is trying to figure out what they need to do to adjust to bring him back going in the direction he was before. I was the biggest Derek train guy there was, saying I just didn't see it possible that he would be beaten. And then when they came out Friday night, I was like, he's fighting for 3rd, not for 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said that to me too. That's what but before they tallied the scores. I'll tell you what, looking at the pictures today, I actually feel like both Derek and Hadi look better to me in the pictures. They look bigger to me in the pictures than they did in person. I feel like in person, there was just like absolutely no question. But I'm more impressed, especially Hadi. I'm a huge Hadi fan. I love his conditioning. I just didn't feel like he had the same freaking like pop. And maybe it was just that he didn't have the pop compared to what Samson had. I don't know.
I'm not like, we don't know any of the body weight or the data, but I think Hadi was lighter. Like he looked a little smaller to me in the legs.
Yeah.
He didn't look as crazy as last year. Like last year, Hadi to me, the year he won, and then last year, and then this year I was like, he looks awesome conditioning wise, but just like a little. Like he came in lighter. I'm not sure.
I wonder if they were thinking to themselves, and this is obviously just pure speculation as a fan of the sport, was Hadi and Derek both focusing on each other, thinking that they needed to beat each other. You know what I mean? And that maybe size isn't the most important thing. Maybe we need to be like absolutely peeled, have the best physique, get that back up. Back is so important. You know what I mean? And maybe they weren't thinking about the fact that somebody who was ridiculously bigger was going to come in and take it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Hell of a show. Yeah. Someone down here said, Fuad said Hadi looked like a 212 guy this year. I can understand that. He was also standing next to like, I heard Samson was 290 on stage.
Yeah. And that's what I wonder. Was it the perspective of
That's the
seeing him
key.
next to Samson, you know?
That is, I really do think that's
okay.
what happened.
You look like a 212 guy.
Remember that last year they only brought 2 out for the
Yeah.
end, so
Yeah.
that balances things out. I mean, Scott, when we were talking about, we're looking at the video after Friday, and you're looking at Samson. When he's standing between Hottie and Derek, you know, it's like when you're taking your kids to school, you have one on either side to hold their hands. Like that's what it looked like, because he was massive. So I think he's going to hold it for a long time. I think that the exciting person to watch now is Martin. I mean, he is. I think, when's the last time somebody went straight into the top, to 4th in their debut?
Yeah.
When's that happened?
It's huge.
Phil Heath, 3rd.
Yeah, and that's enormous. Now, in fairness, that was a different time, but still.
So Samson was 302. Samson said he
302.
was 302 at the night show. So that makes sense. Like, I heard he was 290 at prejudging, so that's possible.
Yeah,
Right.
that's nuts.
Okay.
Nuts. It was awesome.
So classic. Here's my take on what we saw at Classic. That was the first time we have seen anybody push Bumstead like that.
Oh yeah.
When they were doing the final call out and they were hitting all the shots, I thought Bumstead clearly lost the ab thigh, which is only one pose, but I was just shocked that he lost a pose, clearly lost a pose. And it was just such an unusual feeling. I thought, well, geez, the other guy hangs with him, like almost matches him on a few poses. Chris smoked him on the side chest. There's a few things Chris was way ahead on. So I thought he was going to win, but I was just surprised that he was even being challenged. Because like the years when like Dino was second or whatever, I was like, this is just a runaway win. And then Scott was sitting in front of me. You were sitting in front of me. And Scott turned around and he goes, this could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, shit. And then they announced, you know, and then what happened was after that confirmation round, when there were some really close shots, like the front double bicep, I was like, damn, does
I was going to say, I give Mike
win
Summerfield
that?
the front double bicep for sure.
Yeah,
I
like
thought
Mike Summerfield.
Your eyes just went to him, and you're like, I cannot believe I'm looking at someone who's not Chris Bumstead in a front double bicep.
Yeah,
It was wild.
So there were like a couple of poses that went to Mike Summerfield, and I was like, God damn. And then Scott said this could happen, and I was like, oh, shit. And then Emily looked at me, and she's like, is he going to win? And I went, well, I hope he's going to win. Like, I hope he's going to win. That's what we're all hoping for. But, like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Then they did the routines.
Yeah.
And everyone came out and did a great routine, and Mike came out and looked awesome. And then when Chris came out and I heard Hart.
You said something. You're like, yes, sir. You gestured. You made a sound when that happened.
As soon as I heard Hart.
You heard like the first chord.
The first note of the Hart of that song by Hart. I just thought, he's got me. He's got everybody in this room. There ain't no way. And he walks out on stage, hits a couple shots, does a twisting 3/4 back. And I was like, that's it. It's over with.
It was like magic. It was like a magic spell. It
like
really was, man.
Yeah,
I was pulled in, dude.
That room.
I was pulled in. Like, I feel like the best way I could describe it to somebody who wasn't there is I never saw Arnold compete, but everything I know about Arnold, it's his own version of an Arnold-like presence that he has.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, oh yeah, this is why he's Chris, you know?
Yeah.
What about
it was wild?
Yeah.
It was my favorite part of the show, honestly. Classic.
It was,
and I don't follow
sure.
Classic super close, but like to me, that was the most exciting part of the night, was watching Classic and seeing, holy crap, is Chris gonna hold it, you know?
Yeah, it was a fantastic moment. And then, you know, he got to do the proper retirement speech that everybody knew was eventually coming, and I predicted was coming. I said he's going to win, he's going to retire, and he's going to make everybody cry. And I was right. About 75% of the room had at least one single solitary poetic tear. And And my favorite thing that Chris said, you guys got to find the speech. I think it's on Buys and Tries. He put it up himself, but the best part of Chris's speech, which was really something that says a lot about Chris, he said that the longer you're on top, the more people want to see you fall.
Oh, yeah.
And I have never experienced that. And I want to thank all of you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, he's right. Nobody hates Chris.
Nope. No one got tired of seeing him win.
Nobody doesn't like Chris Bumstead. And that really says a lot about setting the standard of how he did what he did. He talked about how setting the standard wasn't just about winning. It was about the person he became along the way.
That's what connected to me. That was really cool.
Yeah.
When he said that, I was like, oh, because look at everything he's done. If that's setting the standard, man, those are some really big shoes to fill for the next Mr. Olympia,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was the highlight of the weekend. And then like close second was Samson collapsing to the floor and so I've seen guys drop to the floor before and I think I don't buy it.
Did you plan that?
I get annoyed.
You know what I mean?
I'm not gonna lie to you.
I've seen guys drop to the floor and I don't buy it. I don't buy that their legs actually gave out on them. And when Samson hit the floor, I totally bought it. He was you could hear it in his voice when he was talking. The best part when he was saying, I'm here now.
Yep.
And I was like, yep, from that labor job, that shitty labor job that you were working, with the mud on your boots and the dirty gloves to this. And it was awesome. So, yeah, what a great show. I just loved the whole thing.
I got to throw one extra thing in that I thought was a little more valuable than people seem to get, which was the whole all-in push that Jake Woods had to the Arnold when he said, we're going to go ahead and make this $600K right now. Not next year.
Yeah.
Going into the show, it was $400,000, but hey, it looked like
second
it was a good night.
150? Second was 150?
Yeah, they bumped that up to 250. Yeah. $250,000 to second and bumped that to $6. I mean,
I like how he said, we got the live stream numbers and they're really good.
Yeah, I thought that was a great play. I also thought, for anybody who didn't catch it, but the Super Bowl rings, I'll air quote, for all the Olympia champs was incredible. Bringing out the old guys, I'm assuming that means Derek and Hottie got theirs as well. I haven't seen that online. But I thought that was classy also to bring that into the old guys. It's one thing if you start something new, but it seems very Wings of Strength, Jake Woods style to go, well, we've got some guys here that should have one. Let's go ahead and hand them all their $50,000 rings.
Yeah.
Yep. That was great.
It was a class move.
And another thing I want to bring up that I think we'll all like is your coach doesn't have to be a scientist. Your coach doesn't need a spreadsheet application. Your coach needs to care about what you look like, and your coach needs to pay attention to your body.
Yep.
And we've got Marlena shutting everybody up and helping her husband win the freaking Olympia. And I just, Dino, my buddy Dino, our buddy Dino, did a video on how that's essentially what Debbie was doing with Dorian. I mean, she doesn't get any credit for being a coach, and he never called her a coach. But she would say, hit a lat spread. You look really great today. This is a great look, Wow, you're hard today. How much water did you have yesterday? Yeah, no, man, that meal you had yesterday, you look crazy. This is the best you've ever looked. Man, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think the best part of the situation was, first off, those of us who've been in this longer really never doubted that this was a possibility. because I've been there I've been there in my house. I mean, Chris has asked, my ex-wife, what do you see right now? Because I'm looking at pictures, so that's something that there's a guy like Chris Aceto asking for her opinion. You know what I mean?
I remember Chris telling me to put my girlfriend on the phone.
Yeah.
Put her on the phone. And he's like, are his veins like the biggest you've ever seen them? She goes, no. And he goes, okay. And he gives his phone back. He's like, kid, it's what we're going to eat.
Yeah, it's very reasonable. Wasn't really shocking, but I loved seeing the win, and I also love the way that he made it her moment.
Yeah,
she's the first woman I've ever seen brought immediately on stage. She was on stage when everyone was out there, and the competitors all gave her respect too. Every single one of them turned and addressed her and was fired up for her, and I thought that was an awesome moment. And like you said, Ron, just it's not that complicated.
I gotta also say this is the best screen name ever. My back is broken, spinal. I'm dying. I was gonna say this too. I loved when Bob said, well, you got the Sandown. Of course, the wife can pick up the check. And she just said, no.
She went straight for the trophy.
Yeah. And that was like a metaphor to me of who she is as his partner.
Right.
You could see the weight on that thing too, because when she went to pick it up, I think she was a little surprised because she had to kind of like brace her back a little bit after she tried the first time, and then she hoisted it. Bob was like, "It's heavy, isn't it?" And it's like, give me an idea how heavy it really is.
That was like a poetic moment. Right. I was like, she is the same as him when it comes to this goal.
Yeah.
The Sandow was the goal. They'll talk about the check at breakfast, but like tonight she's picking up the Sandow, and I just thought that was the coolest. I loved that.
Yep.
So, oh wow, look who's in the chat.
Shout out to Natalia Coelho. I thought she looked fantastic. Personally, I would have given it to her. That's my opinion.
Unbelievable.
I'm not just saying it because she's here. I said it when she wasn't there too in the hotel room to my wife. We both would have had her. She looked incredible.
Yep. What a crazy battle.
And I met her mom too. She was a really nice lady. We had lunch next to her and Kenny after prejudging. She was just the sweetest lady. You could tell she cared so much about her daughter having a good experience there.
Yeah.
I felt like Ron and I saw nobody.
Yeah, no, congratulations to her for an amazing showing and like a crazy battle there, and she'll get it back, she'll get it. So okay, what else we got here?
Brian probably missed. He said, "Congrats to Missy, awesome." We just had Missy in the stream a little bit ago.
Oh, Missy's still in the stream. Look,
she's still in the stream.
Nice.
Oh, there she is.
Money is nice, but it's more about the title. Yeah, absolutely, Missy.
So,
and again, let's just touch on this. Remind everybody of what Missy did. She blew her ACL, which like
on stage
is on stage, which is like heartbreaking and the end of a lot of careers. And then she did the old rehab, thing, which sucks. Anyone who's had an injury, the most mentally challenging thing you'll ever do is try to rehab a huge injury that required surgery. And it comes back to win the Olympia, and so just congratulations to Missy.
From what I heard, and Missy, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but from what I heard, she wasn't able to practice her routine full bore as much as she normally would. So there was an element of like when I when I hit the nitro button, at the night show, or the nitrous button, is everything really going to hold together? There was an element of that, because it's only literally been a year. And I know myself, I had ACL replacement. They had me train for 3 months, okay, before I went in for the ACL replacement. I blew my legs up. Like they were substantially larger. They were stretching my shorts. It felt good. Literally 1 week after I had the surgery, my left quad just sucked down to nothing. Like literally.
Ron knows that deal.
Yeah, no kidding, right, Ron?
I know all about that.
Yeah.
Nothing like a ruptured quad tendon that just turns off the muscle, just flicks the fuse is just flipped and there's no innervation at all. And it just shrinks catastrophically fast. Like
1 year.
every day it's down an inch. Like
1 year, you know.
yeah,
Back
one
We
year.
need to not have this in common, guys. All of us have this. I mean, I did it with the whole body to one up you guys, but I mean, other than that,
I did it with the whole body.
only thing stayed full size of my head. Everything else was gone, but whatever.
Yeah. That was great. It was a great show. I mean, what else did we touch on? Well, you know, hey, Vitamin C, 8-time figure champ,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
retired on top. And I got to say, obviously, you know, that's a crazy record, and she was an awesome figure champion. But, you know, we'll see what direction figure goes in now that she's gone.
Yep.
You know?
Missy says atrophy 4 inches on her left leg.
Oh, you don't measure it. That just makes it worse.
She's a numbers girl. She had to
Yeah.
know.
I don't think I put a tape around my leg at its smallest. I just,
Yeah.
you know.
He just put his watch on it once, and he was like, crap.
Yeah. I gotta say, you know, Dusty and I saw a lot of her because she was at the booth. But Lola Montez, Mutant sponsored Lola Montez.
Oh yeah.
Got third.
I describe her physique. I love her physique.
It's
because
freaky.
I love that her physique, and I said this to her. I said, you have all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you are the fully loaded air conditioned seats. Like, you know what I mean? Like she's, because you look at like some
Lane
of those
assist.
figure girls. Yeah. Some of those figure girls at the top, you think, oh, wow, she looks great. But if you look at from a bodybuilding point of view, like muscle for muscle, and then you look at Lola and you're like, oh, she's got all the things that you want to see on a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
She's got everything from the long lower lats to the sweeping tries to the crazy caps to she even got calves. Like some of the figure girls don't have calves, and she's got like gnarly calves. So I know that they're not always looking for those things in figure, but as a bodybuilder, I want every muscle group to be difficult to attain.
Yeah.
Do you know, like I don't want any of the champions to be relatably achievable by the average person.
Exactly.
Like I want my bikini girl to be crazy taper, and I know they don't want a bunch of muscle, but I want some delts, and I want some, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I want everything to be
The
difficult
smallest
to
waist
get.
you've ever seen that looks
And
impossible.
when I look at Lola, I just think that's not going to happen with anybody. Like that's 1 in a million figure girls will ever achieve a physique as complete as that from a bodybuilding standpoint. So I'm a huge fan, and I want her to win an Olympia. Yeah.
Next year.
Okay.
How about
So
Andrea?
5 times. So let's talk about what we saw. She got beat 7 weeks ago. She wasn't at her best, and she made some changes, and she stayed out in Phoenix, was it?
Yep.
And she showed up the best I've ever seen her. Would you guys say that that's a good
I was
summary?
not
predicting
even
it. I couldn't have been happier. I saw her on Thursday. She gave us a quick text and was like, "Hey, let's meet up, get some behind the scenes content." So I caught up with her while she was getting her makeup done before the press conference.
Yep.
So we were hanging out backstage for a half hour, and her coach showed up. We talked to him for a few minutes too, and you guys will probably be able to see all that. Hopefully Mutant puts that stuff out because I'm sending it straight over to them. But you could see in her face, like her face was shrink wrapped. Like I'd never seen her face looking like that before. And she was feeling alive. She said she'd been eating so much food that she didn't even have cravings. She was like, well, I still want to eat some stuff, but she was eating so much food. She was questioning at one point, like, oh my God, how am I going to be my best? But she was looking her best at that whole thing,
Yep.
So I knew this was coming. I'm just so glad that it happened. And I don't know, I know you guys didn't see the press conference, but there was this whole thing where they tried to stir her and Angela up. The way they do that.
Yeah.
And they got to Angela and they got her saying, I am the best in the world. Because Drea was saying, she was humbled basically by the loss, and that last then 7-8 weeks just completely turned things around. It's not like she was out of shape. You know what I mean? It's not like she was out of shape. She was in bad shape at that point. She just wasn't her best, and she got caught off guard, right? So it's not like she needed to redo everything. She just needed to eat up, apparently, and get more rest. She had off days. They didn't push her to the extreme, but she said, I've put in so much. I've sacrificed so much in this last 8 weeks to really turn this around. And Angela said, well, we can all really push at the end, but I've been doing all those things for the last 365 days, and that's why I deserve this. It was like, whoa. Andrea just sat there like a fucking queen, just smiled and said, we're going to put on a good show.
Right.
Yeah. She's so classy, man. Yeah. Like, I'm so proud to have her on the Mutant team, like have her around the booth and see her interact with people. And she comes into the booth, the day after her 5th win, and she just loving interacting with every single person that comes up to her. And George, did you see the robe George gave her?
Yeah.
George had that custom robe made with the 5 times on the back.
That was so cool.
And she just started crying, just turned the faucets on. And that was a great moment. So yeah, we're really happy for Drea. And I got to say something, like, I'm not going to go hard on, I don't know the full details, but I know, like, she did switch coaches. And I remember she used to tell Dusty and me stuff that she was doing. And I would think,
my
like,
tongue still
wow.
hurts from biting.
Yeah. And I would want to say, like, well, I'm not going to tell Miss Olympia what to do, so I'm not going to chime in. But I don't agree with that strategy anymore. That seems like a pretty old school thing to do, and I don't think that stuff necessarily makes you better. And now she got a new coach, and Damien. By the sounds of it,
who coaches vitamin C and
also coaches vitamin C.
Other great, yep.
And it sounds like she kept water in, and she kept sodium in, and she did things differently. And I think now what we're going to see is another forward.
Without
I think
question.
that there's a bunch of room now for a forward leap.
I heard that she was doing, everything she said and her coach said, these were all things that are sustainable. These are all things that are healthier. Like, she's going in the right direction. There's no question.
Yeah. So let's see what 6 brings.
Yeah.
So,
I have an idea.
Okay.
How about Keon, guys?
Yeah. Okay. 212. Man, I said before that Keon might have the best structure we have ever seen in bodybuilding.
Yep.
And I stand by that now. His look, like if he would have walked into the open,
top 5,
who would he have beaten?
I mean,
at 203.
Most of them. Leave it at that.
Most of them, right?
I mean, he'd be right up there with that waist.
Yeah. What a crazy
I think he would. Here, I'll just be really blunt since no one else does it. He would have beat Derek, and he would have gotten 3rd.
Okay.
I mean, if he went for open,
easily possible.
So they were saying he has room, right? So in 212. So let's say that he decided open, right? And he came in at like 219. You know what I mean? Like, what would that look like?
Yeah.
I wish they would just let them cross over like Sean wanted to a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It's over the day before. Just let him jump in. What?
Yeah.
If what's the worst thing that happens? He either A, beats everyone or gets his ass kicked. Who cares? Like, I don't understand that ruling.
Yeah.
Like, just let him roll with it. Oh, does he need to qualify? Well, that's going to piss off a lot of the second tier guys that are going to let him do a small show just to beat him. That sucks.
Yeah.
Just let him jump in and see what happens.
I love Scott Weston's comment here. We're covering all the classes? Did I turn on the right podcast?
We've left people's names out. Don't worry, Scott.
We're missing,
Don't worry, we're only
missing a lot of
covering
people.
We're literally
We've had the
covering
placings
1 to
wrong.
2 people, like literally like skipping second and talking about third. So it's still very,
It's still
very,
bad, don't
very
worry.
poor coverage. It's again, we do not come to us for contest coverage.
Mm-mm.
You know
Come
what
to us
surprised me?
for the best we can remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you get.
From a very blurry weekend.
I barely slept, guys. This is not a great way to do this.
So Keon was meeting people at the booth, like right next to ours, or like one over or something like that. And I walked by him, and I was surprised at how big he looks in person. You know what I mean? Like it just like it blew me away. I would never guess like, oh, there's a 212 guy. He looked. If I didn't know any better, I'd be like, oh, there's another. Who's that open guy over there? It just looks so round.
Right.
Well, he did say he was down to get on the show. I talked to him before the
Oh,
before
you're
the
kidding me.
Olympia, so we'll have him on shortly.
All right.
So
Also,
we can
I
twist
chatted
his
with
arm.
Lee Priest on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
And he said he wants to come on.
Okay. Cool.
There we go.
Yeah. So I'm up for that too.
I got to share a
Okay.
highlight with you guys. For me,
Yes.
personal highlight was Andrea said, hey, would you, she had to go over to do a interview with Monica Brandt. She said, hey, would you help me escort me
Monica
over there?
Brandt.
Would you escort me over there to do this? And I said, oh, sure. And George looked at me and he was like, it's your job. Go. And I was like, all right.
fuck
So
it up.
we started walking, right? And she's looking down at her phone, which is good because she needs to get over there right now. We can't, and it's my job. Like I'm head of security now, right? She puts her head down. She's looking at her phone. I said, like, that's good. It's like, just put your hand on my shoulder and you keep looking at your phone. Because, you know, if you're like looking down, you can't make eye contact with anybody. And then I just started moving fast, like really fast. And I felt a little bit more important than I really am for about 2 minutes. That's all I got to say.
That's awesome. That's what it's all about, Scott.
It's like coming through. No, I didn't
Coming
really
through.
say that. I didn't say that really, but
In your mind, in your
champion.
mind, you did.
yeah, exactly.
For those of you, I got to say, we did a couple of shows from the booth. We had some technical problems this year, and the booth wasn't set up properly the way that it should have been. We had a great booth, but there were some flow issues, and it made the podcast really difficult. And so we didn't do the number of shows that we wanted to do from the booth, but we had Clarita on the day after his second place finish. So I don't want to, rehash everything with Clarita because we already covered him.
Yep.
But man, he was hard
I
as
didn't
nails.
mention him at all, by the way.
Yeah,
Right.
Haven't actually said his name yet, but go ahead.
yeah. So hard as nails. He purposely came in lighter, but he spilled the beans that he's going to jump into an open show. And did he say there's 3 open shows left or something that he could jump into?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So I predict he does at least 2 of them. And it's very possible we could see Sean Clarita win another open show, which would be mental. And so just be prepared for something like that to happen in the next short while as we hit these sort of post-Olympia open shows that are coming up. So I'm very excited for that because that's always a really crazy thing to see on stage is that 180 pounds next to the 240s and 250s. So
Yeah, that made for a fun Arnold when Sean jumped into that, and you're
Oh,
seeing
man.
him compared
And
to
it's
Big
the Rami.
Rami and stuff,
it was awesome.
and hanging. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Didn't he get
was
5th at the
incredible.
Arnold? Didn't he finish 5th?
He was in that upper echelon for sure.
Like, that's just nuts.
Can't remember.
So you got to
I
give
can't
credit
remember
to
the
that
weekend.
guy. And a true champion too. He was fine. Like he seemed fine, But yeah, crazy division. Did we cover all the divisions? We didn't cover wellness.
The only one you didn't cover is wellness, which
And we got a super chat
Rob
from
just
Rob.
said. I mean, we gotta. He needs a picture of wellness. I mean, the guy super chatted. It's got to be
Hold on
done.
a minute.
Come
I've
on
got
now.
one here.
Got to
It
handle
was,
this for the guy.
Isabella
Some
Nuns.
Some girl with a nice butt one.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, she looked incredible. Hold on a second. I have to
I think it's
screen cap
more
this.
like I always look at the wellness almost like manitars because their legs are so big.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it. Just
Yeah.
horse legs, phenomenal.
Just drop
There we
this
go,
in right
Rob.
here.
There's,
And you were right, Dusty.
There's an optics check for you, Rob.
Yeah. She looks
That
incredible.
muscle is unbelievable to me. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
My hips don't do that either, though,
Yeah.
Ron.
We still got to cover, if we're gonna really finish, we got to do men's physique and bikini. But I don't know if I have enough.
Can't go there.
information.
I got up on both of those. Remember? That's when I
Yeah.
got a $72 drink in one of those classes, and then
We kind of did women's physique because we kind of did.
We kind of
yeah,
did.
the women's physique. You covered Natalia, and that's
Because
phenomenal.
Natalia was on.
Natalia was
Yeah,
my
that's
favorite,
fine.
so there's that.
Yeah, there you go.
I back that too. I actually, truthfully though, I see that because I don't love the flow of the physique of the girl that won the last few years. Just for me personally, I'm like, I see the glutes
Sarah?
sliced out of their mind. Yeah, but that's really all I really get out of her. So it's no offense, it's just a physique preference. I love the overall flow of Natalia's shape. It's
And
just,
conditioning.
to me, well, come on now.
We're both.
She left her skin at home years ago. All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was the Ryan Terry guy. He has. So he was men's
He is
physique.
awesome.
And you know what I noticed compared to some of the other guys, he almost, tell me if I'm wrong, almost feel like he has a very compact look. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have like super, super crazy wide clavicles. I mean, obviously
Right.
he's fantastic. It's like his shoulders are wide enough, but there's a subtlety to his look, I guess. That I thought it was very deserved. Him and I didn't know who the second place and the third place guy were, to be completely
The second place
honest.
guy was from Afghanistan, and he
And
was
he looked-
really impressive. Like
Yeah.
as an older dude sitting there now, I'm like, these guys look really good.
Oh, they all did, man.
Like they look really good. Like men's physique is now like just a really good bodybuilder look standing in shorts.
Yeah.
Like,
Here's
but,
that second place guy.
Ryan Terry, yeah, that guy looked great. But I gotta say, I'm such a fan of British bodybuilding that seeing Samson and Ryan Terry take titles back, I was like, "Oh, that's good. I like that. I just like that. I like that. And I gotta say, someone said, why don't you cover wheelchair bodybuilding? Which is kind of funny because Dusty and I went and handed out the wheelchair Olympia, something I've been doing for years. And this year, George, there's Ryan Terry there. Seems like a great guy too,
Yeah.
I'd
take that physique. I'd take that look.
Yeah.
You know,
And he's got legs, and he's got some quads. Look at the quads.
Dude,
you know what
that's
I mean?
the thing
Exactly.
too. They all have legs,
They got
and they're all
quads
doing
now.
like much tighter shorts so that you can see them. Versus, think about like back in a decade ago, those guys they wore the really loose board shorts. You couldn't see if they had legs or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I've been handing out the wheelchair Olympia for several years now because Mutant supports that division a lot.
Yeah.
And this year they sent Dusty down there with me. I think they just wanted to let us hang out. And
I knew you were getting lonely.
yeah, and they went down and Harold Kelly, King Kong Kelly, won his 6th wheelchair Olympia. He won the title back because he wasn't the champ last year. And I have plans to go to his gym and do a Mutant on a Mission with him.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Because I want to train with the wheelchair Olympia champ. I want to see what he does, all the little things he does to modify his training and see what his gym's like. And so that's going to be something that I want to do. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was just a great weekend. I know we spammed you guys with coverage we don't normally do, which I feel
That's why it was so bad.
Normally, you would have gotten like a review of the bathroom, Ron's favorite meal, the meal.
Maybe the top 2 at the Olympia.
Yeah.
How much did you gain this time, Ron? That's what the people want to know.
I did all right. I'm about 3 pounds up, which is I minimized the damage of eating with Dusty by having by going long periods of time between meals.
Well, you also didn't see me as much this trip, so that was probably helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did do some eating on my own, so there was that.
Yeah. So here's the problem, Scott, when I'm with Dusty.
Yeah.
He orders first. It's this thing that he does, and I realize now he does it on purpose. He doesn't let me order first. He orders first, and then it's like a hypnotic bodybuilder switch gets flipped in my head.
Okay.
So he'll go, give me the 3-item combo with rice and noodles, and I'll take double chicken and single beef. And then she'll look at me, and I'll go, sounds good. And then next thing you know, I'm sitting in front of this bowl of food the size of a football helmet.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, this is like 3 meals worth of food. And Dusty's looking at me going,
I actually filmed it at our last stop.
Did you?
Because he literally had like a mound of chicken on the top. And
she hands me the bowl, and I was like, "Oh my god, what have I done? Like
Yeah,
I
what you
got
gotten yourself into?
Like,
That's a commitment.
Yeah, I just short circuit and I just order the meal he ordered because of the bodybuilder thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, I would have ordered. I'll just get a 2-item combo, single rice, with just chicken. That would have been my logical order had I been by myself.
Yeah.
But no, Dusty orders first, and then I just go, we'll get what he's having.
I got to go out to eat with the Mutant team on Friday night, and we went to that amazing Foco de Chao place, which
the Brazilian steakhouse.
Yeah, I would not have eaten that much meat had I just ordered. If I ordered like a steak, I would have just been like, okay, I'll eat the steak and I'm done, right? But they just keep bringing more and more, and then the meat gets better, that as they go. The chicken was really good, but it's not filet, right?
Leave the chicken out of the conversation.
Yeah, I should have, but the chicken was really tasty, and I definitely ate more than I would have had I just had like a fixed portion. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was good. I purposely had almost no carbs at that meal because I'd already eaten with Dusty once that day, and so I had problems already.
Plan it out.
Yeah, I was already in the hole.
And I have to say, I'm sorry, Ron. Sorry for
what?
making everybody think you were 50 at that party.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Tell them what happened, Dusty. You remember that?
They announced that it's Ron's birthday, which it wasn't, by the way. That was Monday.
It was like 2 days before, yeah.
And as soon as the words come out of the mouth, Scott yells out, "Happy 50th, Ron!" And then the entire room immediately buys that he's 50.
They just start clapping. They didn't say anything. They just started clapping. So
I'm the only one in the corner going, his birthday's on Monday and he's 49.
If they watch the podcast, they know.
Oh, it was great.
But I thought it was funny in the moment, and then afterward I was like, oh, that was a really dirty trick.
That was even
It's
more
okay.
funny
Some guy at the gym yesterday wished me happy birthday.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, it was a good one. And he goes, "You're 52, right?"
Wow.
And I was like,
not yet.
And I was like, oh, damn. No, not yet.
Wait, do I look 52?
Yeah, I know. It like really hurt because people often tell me, "Oh, don't look 49," and then this guy's like, "You're 52, right?" And I was like, "Oh, Jesus!"
Just shot you right out the. That's how much you aged in one day.
Yeah, Vegas was rough on me.
So I told you guys my highlight. Well, one of my highlights, the Drea thing. I'll walking through the crowd. I'll think of another one. But what were your highlights of the weekend?
Ron, go first. I have to think.
Highlights. What were my highlights of the weekend? I just love hanging out with Emily in Vegas. Like, I know that's the husband thing to say, but like, we are such like, we don't want to go to the pool party. We don't want to do the we just don't have any bullshit left in us at all. We just want to go to our favorite little restaurant, and she gets her salmon salad and I get my chicken parm, and we just sit there and chat. And it's just fun. We people watch, running into people. Saw Flex Lewis and said, "Hey, you look really good in that shirt, even though it's only an XL." That was my joke. and you know what Flex said to me? He was really excited. It was after the show. He looks at me, he goes, "Fuck, with the size of that check they gave out, I think it's time to bump it up."
No kidding.
Yeah, he goes, "I think it's time to bump it up." And he goes like that. And I was like, "Oh, I know what you mean."
Yeah.
And he goes, "I see the size of that check. Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo." And he went like that. It looked like he was excited, rubbed his hands, did a little dance. And I was like,
"Oh, a leprechaun right now."
That's what I was picturing too.
Well, it's his own fault.
There's a rainbow coming down.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, has Flex Lewis got the itch?" I mean, I know the stem cells in the shoulders apparently went really well.
Hey.
And so I don't know.
It wouldn't take that much, muscle memory.
Muscle
Seems
memory.
pretty simple. No, I would say truthfully, it's the mutant situation. I think Scott is now starting to understand a little bit more in the fact that I get excited to just see everyone from Mutant. is even before we get there, I know it's going to be the best part. I typically am exhausted by the end of the weekend because I'm friends with all these people.
Oh, God,
when you guys all went back to your hotel after dinner, I went out and smoked cigars till 2 a.m.
Oh yeah, there was no way I could have done that for multiple reasons.
Course, up in the morning the next day at 7:30. But that was awesome. And then the big one, of course, is I would say 80% of the people we meet now that come up to us are from the podcast, and it is wildly humbling the amount of people. More. Yeah, it's nuts. I mean,
I think it's 9
Ron
out of 10.
and I were joking that only every now and then does someone come up and not want a photo with both of us because they only know us from the show.
So that's the funny thing. That's the funny thing. If someone's like, "Hey, Dusty, I follow your stuff," and then they look at me and go, "Can you take a picture?" and they give me their phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't happen.
Weird. Weird. And then
years ago, that was all the time back and forth, you know?
And it's a weird thing. Yeah. And, but the very huge majority, it's, I watch your show all the time. I listen to you guys all the time, and they want a photo and they get in the middle.
I had to go get Scott from the back like 5 times when he was setting up.
People call me the producer now. That's it. Like, where's the producer?
Exactly what they said. Where's the producer? I'm like, 1 second. I run to the back, go get him. They were like, and then they hand Ron and I the photo. They're like, take a picture with me and the producer. I was like, oh, you don't want us at all. Got it.
Yeah, so it's really cool. Seeing people like getting validation. Is that the right word, or is that like the word for social media addicts? What's the word? Getting just confirmation.
Getting confirmation as a human being.
Yeah, I don't mean validation. I think confirmation that people enjoy the show, and that they come, like people that came to the booth, like, you know, Beer Bellies and Bodybuilding. You know, I mentioned some like Tina, like people like that are like, you know, we see them in the chat on the side on the live shows, and we see them commenting on the stuff, and they come in like. That kid, Dusty, that kid that we met at Flex at Dragon's Lair in January.
Yes.
He came back to the booth. You know, like,
lives in Utah,
yeah. So like those guys, and just seeing them and knowing that, you know, they really appreciate the show, which of course, like to us, we are just like glad anyone's watching it all, you know? And so it's really cool. It's really cool. And I think another thing that a lot of people said to me, and they'd say to me about the show, is along the lines of, you guys could have more viewers if you did some of the stuff that the other podcasts do.
Right.
Some of the negative stuff. Yeah. Some of the, hey, this guy sucks. Look at how these two guys are fighting. Like some of that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. The clickbait, cause controversy type of thing. And there's people out there that appreciate that we don't have any interest in that.
Yeah.
And I've had people tell me that they used to watch other shows and they got tired of it.
Right.
And so, I mean, I just don't have a personal interest. I don't care about gossip. Like when people tell me gossip, I sometimes tell them, stop. Like, I don't care. Hey, did you hear what so-and-so said? No, I didn't. And I'm going to leave. Like I've done that many times. Yep. And so that's just how we are, I think. And I'm glad that some people appreciate it.
I agree.
You can't forget about Jess Lopez driving solo mission 4 hours to the show and then straight back.
Oh, yeah.
It was really cool to meet her. She was awesome. She was awesome. It looked like she was on her way to a tennis tournament.
Yeah, you told her too. You're
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she was awesome. That was fantastic to see her show up at the booth. And I was like, "Oh yeah, who are you here with?" She's like, "Just me." And I go, "Oh, when did you get here?" She goes, "Drove in this morning." And I go, "Oh, are you staying?" She goes, "Nope, straight back." And it's 4-hour drive.
Yeah.
So the people like that. So thank you, Jessica, for coming to the booth and getting photos with us. That was awesome.
On that note,
absolutely.
So on that note, she met Justin Shire, and Justin sent me this picture. So she actually said to him, and let me put the picture up first. This picture was taken. Look at Nick's face. This picture was taken right as she said, "Justin Shire, I love your poop stories on It's Just Bodybuilding. Look at Nick's face.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's amazing.
Oh my god! See the tennis? She's on her way to a tennis tournament. See,
Totally.
Oh, that was so
great
great.
outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
she was
great.
fantastic.
So good.
Another thing I'm going to say for people is Justin Shire and Kuba are both huge right now.
Oh, yeah.
We
Yes.
got that group photo. Do you have that group photo? I posted it on my
I can pull it up.
my actual
I'll
wall.
have to
It's
get
actually
it
Sent
on.
to
on.
you, right?
Yes.
Oh, there you
It's
go.
on my wall. But you know, Justin came by and I was like, God damn, like he is big. And Kuba was at the booth. And he was
I was telling Scott that
huge.
Kuba is like the reversed catfish. You see him online and stuff, and you're like, oh, he's a big guy. And then you see him in person, you're like, oh, he's a monster.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I
Like, I
didn't even
trained with
realize how big
Kuba.
he was.
There we go.
I trained with Kuba last year at
There's the
his
group.
gym, and he was big, but I like don't remember being that. He was like bigger this time.
Oh,
he
he
was
was
real big.
massive. I mean, that doesn't even show, but he was in person. I was like, oh,
Well,
you are massive. And
Right
he's
now,
taller
too.
than I thought he was, which is funny.
you guys saw his, his recent conditioning. He still has like the abs,
Yeah, he's
lines, and
like-
the
Yeah.
squads, all that.
Yeah, like
He's like-
260.
Yeah.
He's like 255. At least that was a week ago. He's probably 260 now, especially after the Olympia.
He didn't eat with me, but if he would have been 270. But go
And he
ahead.
hasn't even turned the gas up yet. So that's
No.
where he stands.
No.
Just
No,
eating
no.
and training and focusing. So yeah, he's gonna be big. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a
It was
highlight.
exciting.
Seeing Justin and Kuba, all of us together. I wish we would have been recording at that moment. That would have been
Yeah, we had like a
absolutely
15-minute just conversation, and then they were just getting ready to leave, and Justin goes, "We should actually get a picture with people we know for once." And he turned and he's like, "Everyone get together." So it was
Yeah.
very cool.
I tried to remind myself to take more pictures, and I still failed.
We
So this is how bad I am. Andrea was at the booth on Saturday for a couple hours, and
Yeah.
she's just got like swarmed by people,
Oh yeah.
right? And I was like, I'm not going to bug her. I'll just wait till she's done with all the people, and then I'll get in there and give her a good congratulations hug and get a photo with her, and it'll be awesome. And then she was gone.
I caught her.
So I messaged her, and I was
Yeah.
like, Drea, we didn't even get a photo. She's like, I know.
I caught her
she's, like,
right when
brutal.
she was getting ready to leave or something to go do something else, and there were no more people in line because it was ending. And I hugged her, and I didn't realize I was going to do this, but I was so excited I picked her up. I picked her up off the ground with a hug.
She probably loved
I
it.
love it.
yeah, she's good.
Girls
with
like
it.
being picked up. Yeah. Yeah, man. Great show. Highlight was probably like that was, I'd say the Bumstead moment for me
Oh,
was like a memory I'll never forget.
Yeah.
And like, it's not like Chris and I are like bros or anything, but we're buddies. Like I remember Chris from when he was a junior at nationals, like I remember seeing Chris at nationals and saying to him, you're incredible, man. Like you have what it takes. Like you have everything it takes. And just thinking I was giving a junior some really good encouragement, as I stood there with my pro card.
Yeah.
And then to see what he's done, and that was 2015. That was 9 years ago. 9 years ago, he was a kid that I was like, that kid looks good.
Hadn't
And
even
then
grown a
he-
mustache yet.
Yeah, I couldn't even grow a
That was
mustache.
a
Yeah.
secret.
And 9 years later, he's like part owner of a $1.5 billion company with 6 Olympias. And it's just completely insane what he's done. Like, I can't imagine what he reflects on, like right now, like at home, with career over with. Like, I wonder what's going through his head.
Yeah.
You know what I
Probably
mean?
thinking about that Justin Shire poop story. He can't believe
Yeah.
that even happened.
Probably just
He's still a guy. It's the most random things.
My highlight was,
Yeah.
I think, like what you had said, Dusty, getting to see everybody and then getting to see the listeners. You know, that's always the coolest. I won't get too far into it because Ron pretty much said all the stuff, but it blows me away every freaking time that we get to meet people. So that was my highlight for sure.
Agreed. Well, I have to go get adjusted, so we got to roll.
you have to go get
Chiropractor,
adjusted.
to be
You've got
specific,
something
right?
to do.
Yes,
So
mental and physical.
before you leave, can we play one thing?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know what it
Sending
is.
you
I
a
mean, what-
video. I'm
I was
sending
like, what
you a
is it?
video.
Is this on text? What are we
I'm
talking
sending
about?
you a video to text. Yes.
All right. I am
I'm
prepared.
sending you my all-time favorite Chris Bumstead memory.
Okay.
So you have to turn the volume up and play the video.
All right.
And this is Chris Bumstead at his best and most Canadian. And I love it.
Way the other day, and I saw had a fucking big old pile of ice here. I couldn't fucking shovel that shit, so I went down to the local Home Depot, went up to Buddy and said, "Hey bud, how do I get rid of this fucking ice?" He said, "Let me show you something real quick." Guy comes out with a fucking snow torch. I'm like, "Buddy, that ain't no snow torch, that's a fucking flamethrower, buddy." He's like, "Oh yeah, buddy, it's a fucking flamethrower." So we're gonna rip this fucking thing, set fucking fire to the ice here, get rid of the fucking hump here, cause I ain't shoveling that bullshit. Oh hell no. So let's give her hell.
Why don't I have one of those? That is amazing.
That is the most Canadian moment ever.
It was good.
Fucking Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah.
That was great.
Perfect.
Perfect. Chris will always be a Canadian kid.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell.
that's right, ring the bell. Remember, IamMutant.com, Big Ron, Dusty. Those are your codes. Thank you for everybody that orders on the site, keeping us employed. Sometimes they look at those orders and they go, okay, barely
We're right on
squeaked
the
through this
cusp.
month." Right on the cusp. Remember the Think Big Bodybuilding Patreon, keep a producer homed.
Thank you guys.
Scott does a lot of work for this channel, and if you guys aren't watching the other shows, go watch the other shows. Scott does a lot of fantastic work on this channel.
Thank you.
We are his like sort of reject show that he handles on the side. And
Last one that came in.
the real bodybuilding science is done on other channels. So go and appreciate those shows as well. And congratulations to all of our Olympia champs this year, new and old. And we look forward to doing another great year of watching the bodybuilding world unfold. And I love this. This is awesome that we have this to talk about and have this whole industry to be in and be around, and just a bunch of great people.
And thank you to Mutant for bringing me out to be with you guys. It is an absolute honor, and I look forward to doing it again. This is the coolest thing. So thank you, Mutant. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Cheers, everybody. Remember, it's just bodybuilding.
Thanks everybody on the
See ya.
live stream. You guys are